So welcome, everybody. Such a pleasure seeing you all again. Just letting the last people in. It's not the last, maybe there's more coming, but so tonight we are going to talk a little bit about bliss. What the heck is bliss? With every non-dual quality, I bring this forward. And bliss is a non-dual quality, which means it's part of the qualities of our consciousness, or part of the qualities which are natural with us, always there. And if bliss is always there, how come that we are not blissful all the time? And what is bliss? So, so bliss is, of course, a word, but it's not about the word of bliss. Bliss is an experience. It's connected with opening up to the depth with the whole level of feeling. Surrendering the mind. Letting go of control, of mental control. So the moment that we kind of are out of our mind, to say it like this, for instance, when we see something incredibly beautiful, which is touching us very deeply, this can bring forward, aside that we're touched by the beauty of something, also a feeling of bliss. And it's very difficult to explain what exactly a feeling of bliss is. It's fulfilling. It's connected maybe with the feeling of fulfillment. It's connected with being, because the moment we let go of the control of the mind, we much more kind of move into a state of being. It's a strong feeling, in a way, the feeling of bliss. But it can also be soft. And of course, when we look to bliss, there is a lot of different levels of bliss. There's the bliss which comes forward when we surrender to something which is bigger as we are, out of the mind, on the level of feeling, the level of awareness. Bliss can come forward. Bliss connected with religion or with God. In the deep surrendering to the energy of what we call God, bliss can come forward. But bliss can also come forward physically. You know, when we have an orgasm or the building up towards an orgasm, there's often a feeling of bliss. So bliss can come forward in different ways. And it's, again, something which is completely natural to us. So it's connected with surrender, the surrendering of the mind, the surrendering of control, moving to the depth of feeling. Bliss is coming forward when we feel deeply connected with something. For instance, when we contemplate on the experience of peace. We do the peace meditation every Wednesday. Short often, too short, I think, but still, we do it. And when there is this deep connection with peace, then at a certain moment, bliss is added to it. It becomes blissful peace. Or when we're sitting in front of a tree and we connect with the peace of a tree or a forest, and we deeply connect, and in the meeting position between this quality and the quality inside ourselves, bliss can come forward. when we connect with another person. And there is this kind of deep recognition of the other person and in this togetherness. So often first it starts with joy. But when we kind of allow this joy to be there, the joy of recognizing somebody, the joy of togetherness, then this joy kind of brings forward also bliss. So to be able to feel bliss, we need to have an open heart. We need, in a way, to surrender to our feelings, to surrender to our hearts. This is where we find bliss. It's not something mental, as I said before. It can be brought forward by the physical. But again, it always comes together with this opening of the heart, the depth of connection, the depth of connection with ourselves, the depth of connection with somebody outside ourselves. But then again, when you look into this, if we really deeply connect with a flower, this is only possible if we are deeply connected with ourselves as well. If we deeply connect with the godly energy, this is only possible when there is a deep surrender to the depth of ourselves as well. So bliss is coming forward in those moments that we are deeply connected with our true nature or essence. Bliss is basically the code of true nature. When we move deeply into true nature, then bliss is surrounding us, this feeling of bliss. If we move deeply into being, the feeling of bliss is surrounding us. It's there as part of our being. So often, when we look to bliss, and we are often looking for bliss, for blissful experiences. We take drugs to feel bliss. Ecstasy and some other drugs kind of bring forward this opening of the heart. Psilocybin can do this as well. And then there is a feeling of bliss, and sometimes this feeling of bliss is very strong. It kind of opens up this natural quality which is with all of us. So we take a drug basically to be able to let go of control, to let go of the mind, of the controlling part of our mind. Or we meditate. So when we take drugs, the bliss is overwhelming sometimes, and we kind of want to it back. So we take the drug again, and we take it again, and again. And then what we do basically is that we put the bliss on the drug. The drug is giving us the bliss. But this is not really what the drug is doing. What the drug is doing is that it opens up the opportunity to move into bliss. So what is happening when we open up the mind, when we let go of the mind, the mental control, let go of an agenda? So basically what's happening is that automatically we move into the whole area of our feelings, of our heart. The heart is taking over. And then when we connect in the depth with whatever, and we allow this connection to be there, bliss is coming forward by itself. So when we look, for instance, to our children, to the young children, and they're playing or they're connecting with each other, automatically there is bliss as part of the natural connection with themselves and with others. Bliss when the child is connecting with the sunlight, with the trees. Bliss when the child is connected with his toys, with her doll. So bliss is not something special. It is there. It's there all the time on the background. But sometimes bliss is confused with pleasure, and pleasure is something else as bliss. Pleasure is a structure which is much more superficial. And pleasure, again, has a lot of different colors. So we are looking for pleasure when there is a lack of bliss. And especially when there is a lack of bliss and we are kind of entangled in pain, then pleasure becomes very, very important. And then pleasure takes over from bliss. And again, pleasure has many different colors. We can have pleasure, find pleasure in the good luck of another person, but we can also find pleasure in the bad luck of another person. So we find pleasure in something. But then what would happen if we completely would surrender to this feeling of pleasure, contemplate on the feeling of pleasure? When we contemplate on the feeling of pleasure, like when we contemplate on whatever feeling, when we move to the depth of experiencing pleasure as it is, bliss will come forward. But the same is for pain. If we allow ourselves to experience pain to the depth, bliss will come forward also. Hence, that in India, you've got fakirs who are hurting themselves. You see them with a kind of, a piece of rock bind to their penis and walking around like this, suffering. And everybody says, okay, these people are completely crazy, hurting themselves like this. But for them, it's a way to find bliss. Pain, when we are totally surrendered to it, can also bring us to bliss, a blissful experience. And having a blissful experience is also connecting you to your true nature, to the depth of yourself, where you don't identify, don't fight with the pain anymore, where you surrender to the depth of the experience. So I wouldn't suggest to do this at home. I don't think that's kind of good to start to kind of stick needles and pins inside yourself. But again, when we surrender to the pain, it can bring us to bliss. And of course, when we look, pleasure and pain forms a pair. So when our natural connection with bliss is blocked, then we fall back in the world of pleasure and pain. And again, we don't want the pain, so we're looking for pleasure. And there's a lot of different ways of looking for pleasure. And often, this pleasure, what we do in order to find pleasure in something, it's so much often connected also with addiction. We don't want the pain, we want the pleasure. And bliss doesn't exist at that moment. So if we look into our lives, what is giving us pleasure? What do we find pleasurable? So again, when you look at it, what is really giving you pleasure? To secretly eat something which is not really allowed? To do something which is kind of moving a little bit over the borders? To play a game with friends? So what is really giving us pleasure? This is quite personal. I cannot give all the examples. We all have our personal pleasures. And some of them are a little bit sadistic, others are a little bit sneaky, but it's all contracted in a way. And they all are containing an element of pain. It could be an element of loneliness, an element of humiliation, an element of rejection, an element of pain that it's not there for you. So when it's not there for somebody else, we feel pleasure. And again, when you connect with the feeling of pleasure, it's quite superficial. There's not so much depth to it unless we really allow it and completely move into it. It moves to the depth, and what I said before, it moves into bliss. So when you think about it, that we so often kind of, try to move towards pleasure, which always in the background, in my eyes, is there is pain, to avoid the pain, not to feel the pain. And that's a deep conflict when you look into it, because we don't want the pain. So we are looking for pleasure, but we lost the bliss. So it becomes superficial. The depth of experience which is possible comes superficial, as what I explained before, is any experience which is there in the depth of ourselves brings forward by itself bliss. Bliss is directly connected with the depth of experience. I remember when I started teaching, and I would teach a whole day, and I was basically a little bit slaving, working very hard, giving sessions in the morning, sessions in the evening after teaching. And then around an hour, around 10 o'clock at night, I would be finished. And then I had this moment of kind of, it's finished. And this moment of emptiness, this moment that, everything is done. And then this deep kind of peace which came forward, and this incredible bliss just by moving inside, just in pure being. The work of a day is done. So pleasant and so natural. So that means if you have a moment like this, you rather not drink alcohol. You rather not take drugs because it takes away, it blocks part of the bliss which is there naturally. It changes the bliss. And although drugs sometimes helping us to open up a pathway towards a feeling of bliss, when the natural feeling of bliss is coming forward, they interfere. They make it more shallow. And this is also when we kind of take too often the drugs which can bring forward bliss. It becomes pleasurable, but the depth of bliss is missing. So to take a drug to open up a pathway can be helpful, but to repeat it kind of is interfering with the depth of experience which is possible when we are sober. So bliss is helpful because it's a good feeling. It's a pleasant feeling most of the times. It can be very strong and a little bit overwhelming, but it's helpful as a pathway towards our true self. It brings us again to the depth of ourselves, where there is no agenda, where there is pure being. This, when you look to it, is a natural experience. Basically, when you look into it, when you are at the birth of a person. So, what you see is that, when the baby is born or before the baby is born, often the mother is moving to a situation where she really doesn't want anymore. It's too much. And then at a certain moment, there's this deep surrender, and the baby gets born. It's the last little bit. And the mother is totally out of her mind. All the work in the pelvic and the pain and everything which is there is drawing her energy downwards. And then the first connection with the baby. What you often see in the mother is pure bliss. But what you see in the baby is also pure bliss. And with most birth, it is there. The pure experience of meeting each other. And sitting aside of the bed of people who are dying. Sometimes you see that they're opening up in the dying process to where they go. The gate of heaven is opening, and they connect with the people who went there before sometimes. They connect with a husband or their mother, their father. And in this connection, in the process of dying, pure bliss is coming forward as well. So it's possible to die in bliss as well. In the meeting position, in the depth between you and the other. The meeting position, basically, of one essence with the other essence, of one true nature with the other true nature. In the movement into deep togetherness, in the movement of unity. All of this is connected with bliss. So I think I leave it like this, and Georgie will give a very beautiful guided meditation about bliss in a couple of minutes. We have a 5 minutes break, and then there is a guided meditation.
Hey. Yes. Let's come back again together in order to meditate. Find a comfortable position. Get ourselves nice and comfortable. And the bliss in us greets the bliss in you. So I'd like you to lean back, relax, and close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, just let your attention turn inside. Turning your attention inside to whatever is there as a sensation or an atmosphere. In being right here, right now. Just as much as you might notice sensations of discomfort, let yourself also notice areas of comfort. And perhaps you could sense something of the specialness of being able to sense anything at all, whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable. The miracle of sensation. And as you sink even more deeply into this position of comfort, perhaps you could imagine that you're on a train. We're going to go on a journey. And it's a very comfortable carriage on the train with comfy seats, just the right temperature. And there are others on the train, and they seem to be quite peaceful and comfortable as well. Let yourself feel how it is to lean back into that comfy seat. Noticing how the body is supported, how you feel safe. How the light touches the skin of your face. through the window. As the train begins to move, the train is pulling off now. It's picking up a rhythm. And now the sunlight is flickering over your eyes as you relax even more deeply into the vibration of the moving train. Letting yourself be carried on this journey with the rhythm of the train. The warmth on the skin. And the flickering of the light on the outside of your eyelids. Any bodily sensation that comes forward now, just let it be its own happening. And notice what else is there. As the whole body now is moving with the rhythm of the train. And you're leaning back. Leaning back the faster the train goes. As you lean back, it seems like your consciousness is becoming softer. It's surrounding the body. It's beyond the body. Your presence is filling more than the body, it's filling the whole carriage. Maybe for a moment your consciousness becomes conscious of itself. Here I am, loose as the body is defended and safe. And this consciousness is like the sunlight flickering on the skin surface. Perhaps as you feel the air on the surface of the face, on the lips, on the neck. As you feel the touch of consciousness there. Perhaps you can allow the consciousness within the skin. This subtle sense of bliss. Wherever the light is touching the skin. As the train moves on in one direction, maybe you're noticing areas in the body which are a little bit less comfortable. the places you always notice. Small areas of pain or stress that you notice, especially when you relax. And perhaps you can let these areas of pain or stress also be alive, also become conscious, a phenomena, a whispers of life, happenings. As the train moves forward, we're letting any area of pain or stress be there, alive, as a comfort, together with the rhythm and the vibration of the train, as the whole body is supported and part of the whole movement of the train. Maybe it's possible to experience this pain as if for the first time, with a wonder. To feel the edge of bliss within the pain. The aliveness, the spontaneity, maybe the naughtiness, the truthfulness, the integrity, the care. And just as the light, the sunlight flickering on your face, on the back of your eyelids, has a life of its own, so too can this pain of stress. These little discomforts, so too can they have a life of their own. As this wide consciousness in which the body is sitting has a kind of happiness with this ability to sense the body, the physical sensation. And the rhythm continues on of the train vibrating now through your legs and feet, soothing your lower back, rhythmically bringing you into a deeper relaxation and peace. Maybe it's possible then to notice somewhere in the body where you're very comfortable. Somewhere in the body where there's a sense of easiness and pleasure. Maybe in the softness of how the body is supported. Maybe in the easiness of the air on the skin. Maybe in the heaviness of the legs, which become one with the vibration of the train. Maybe it's pleasant to feel the sunlight on the face, or to feel your consciousness expand now, way beyond the body and the train. It's almost as if you become the sunlight that's touching your face and your neck. It's flickering through the trees. And you can sense that touch of bliss of the light. As you're drifting now in the soft rhythm of the train moving forward in one direction. Deeply at rest. You allow the touch of this sunlight to penetrate even deeper inside of you. Noticing this awareness of the light flickering through the chest area. As this light seems to be lighting up the sense of bliss from one cell to another, from one fiber to another, from one organ to another. As you're beginning to forget you even have a body at all, you're becoming a sensation of bliss, flickering lights, a field of bliss with a life of its own. And you are conscious of this bliss. Maybe for a moment you can turn and feel the consciousness which is bliss and the bliss which is consciousness all around you, in the vibration, in the rhythm, in the sensation, in the light, in the consciousness wherever you are. And now, with all of this comfort, you find yourself drawn back to a time where something was really painful for you emotionally. Maybe a time where you were rejected, or you felt violated or ignored. Now, in this ocean of light, perhaps it's possible to give space to that sensation of pain. You're just noticing the authenticity of how this felt for you, how this feels for you, this kind of miracle of pain. Letting this pain dance in and around you, and allowing the purity of it. As the others fall away and the situation falls away, as we move forward with the rhythm of the train, let yourself just notice the depth of this pain as if it was a little celebration. How you are able to feel for real, in freedom. Letting the essence of it come to life as a sensation. Letting it move as freely as you're breathing in and out. As you know you're supported in this comfortable chair as the train moves forward with a rhythm and vibration in one direction, totally safe. As you allow this pain, perhaps you can notice the consciousness which allows it, the touch of bliss in the consciousness that touches the bliss within the pain. Letting it come to life for real as a moments of bliss. Letting the bliss fly with a life of its own, like the light that flickers on the face and the eyelids, and the scenery that you're leaving behind as the train moves forward in one direction. And now, as you feel how your body is supported in the warmth in your chest and the contentment in your gut with the rhythm of the train and the bliss of the vibration moving through you, you're drifting again now to an uncommon place, an uncommon memory of pleasure when you experienced a deep sense of pleasure. Just let yourself be softly curious of how that pleasure felt and how that pleasure feels. Giving space for the sensation of pleasure. You're remembering this time and the conditions in which you experience deep pleasure. And just as easily, you're letting the conditions fall away as the train moves forward, so that you can allow just the sensation of pleasure, the essence of it. The character of it. How pleasure loves to move through you. And as the light is still flickering through the trees on your eyelids and on your face, you become suddenly conscious of this sensation of pleasure. And the bliss in your consciousness touches the bliss within the sensation of pleasure. The blissful, subtle vibration which you now release to have a life of its own, going wherever it needs to go. And this consciousness is expanding now in an easy way, formless, with your body sitting within it, vibrating with the rhythm of the movement of the train. As the train moves forward in one direction, you begin to release whatever wants to be released now behind you. As you feel the light flickering on the face, again, the curiosity comes about the bliss in the bones of your body, which are supporting you now as you relax on the chair in the train which is moving forward. And softly, 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 with the softest bliss, you begin to infiltrate your own bones. With a lot of humility, with the softest sense of bliss, letting yourself infiltrate the porousness of the bones into the center of any bone in your body. Here it's possible to open to the vibration of the bones, the subtle aliveness even of the bones. Soft and subtle bliss which is there even in the emptiness of the bones. As you feel the rhythm of the bones supported by the rhythm of the train, you let yourself drop in even into the place from which this bliss arises, the mysterious source of all of these blissful sensations. Releasing the bliss and falling into the source of bliss. Releasing the bliss and letting yourself become one again with the source of this and any other sensation. And out of this source of all the bliss, you become aware that the train is moving forward with a rhythm and a vibration, and that nothing needs to resist. Letting yourself be in the field of the here and now in any way that it appears. Okay, so as we're gradually waking up in the here and now, the external here and now, it's time to say goodbye to the people watching on the live stream on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to feel your presence, especially the reverberations of bliss. So thank you for joining us, and we see you again, feel you again next Wednesday.